Well, you found him. Victim 3. You're homicidal, just like me. Look back on this, and you will find how madness lurks in every mind.
What is going on, everyone? I am the much debated Hippo, back at it with another video. In today's video, we're diving into Batman Arkham Knight. This is the final game in Rocksteady's trilogy, capping off the Arkham series. This game didn't have a really good release. In fact, it faced many problems and faced much criticism from many people, including myself. I was so disappointed in the game, I didn't even finish it. I put it down and didn't touch it again until I just played it again in 2025. Now, I think it's a pretty good game, and I had a lot of fun going back and playing it, but there are still issues with the game. Some of them persist from the launch of the game still. So let's get into it and figure out what issues I have with the game now in 2025 and what issues I have with the game that still persist from the launch of this title. So if you're a Batman fan, go ahead and hit that like button and let's get into it. First, let's talk about some of the good things that makes Batman Arkham Knight feel like one of the most immersive and authentic Batman experiences you can ever find in any video game. The first and most crucial thing on this list is not only the graphics, but Arkham City itself. This city just feels like Batman's playground. From ziplining up to a roof, to gliding across the sky, to driving your Batmobile through the streets, this feels like Batman's world. It feels like you're Batman and it's your job to save this city. At any given time, there's plenty of things for you to do as well, from hunting down Penguin and blowing up his stashes to just beating up just a bunch of random rioters in the street, or maybe hunting down Riddler's informants. There is many things to do throughout this city that you're almost never going to feel bored. And in my opinion, I don't think this city feels like it's too big or too small. I think it feels like it's just right. I think it gives you enough room to explore and go out and have some fun while not being too big that it feels too open and too empty in between heading to objectives. And it's easy to get distracted by everything that's going on while going from point A to point B, and I personally love that. One thing in the game that distracts me quite often is soaring across the sky and hearing the chatter from the little thugs on the ground, and then hearing whatever smart ass thing they have to say. And when they say, "Hey Batman, come get me," well, I drop down and I kick some butt. Which leads me to my second favorite thing about this game, and that is the combat. The combat in this game is flawless. They've taken everything that they've learned from the first two games, put it all together, and made a system in this game that is just phenomenal. From mixing your gadgets into combat, to using stealth, to fear takedowns and whatnot, combat just feels amazing. And every takedown feels impactful. Whether you're using your gadgets, your weapons, the beatdown, it doesn't matter. Combat just feels phenomenal. And the higher the difficulty, the harder the combat, but just as rewarding it is. In my honest opinion, there's not a game out there that matches Arkham Knight when it comes to its combat system. Now I kind of want to talk about the Batmobile, which was both a positive and a negative for me. So the positive is that when you're in this thing, you feel like Batman. I don't know why, but I just felt like true Batman riding the streets of Gotham in the Batmobile. And to be honest, this is like a childhood dream come true for me. Like, there's nothing more Batman than hopping into Batmobile after kicking some baddies' butts. And that's exactly what I would do all the time. And it was really fun once you got used to the controls. However, this thing could be a little bit difficult to get used to and get a feel for. It did play a little clunky at first, but once you got a feeling for the controls, it was amazing. And the tank battles were a lot of fun. However, that fun wore off quickly, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So the last big positive in this game that I really want to talk about before we move on to some of the negative things about this game is the storytelling. More specifically, the side stories that accompany each Batman friend and foe. This game has some of the best side content storytelling that I've seen in most games. The only game that would even come close to the side content this game offers is probably The Witcher 3. Or if you need a more modern example, take Red Dead Redemption 2 and its side content. But even then, I think that this game has some of the best side content offered in any video game. And that's because Batman has some of the most iconic and memorable villains in any hero franchise. I believe that each and every villain in this game was nailed perfectly. From Penguin to Two-Face, the Riddler, Catwoman, even Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul, whatever you like to call him, he makes an appearance in this game. Not as much as I would like to have seen him, but his appearance is still memorable nonetheless. The portrayal of the Mad Hatter in this game is one of my favorite portrayals of the Mad Hatter in the Batman series ever.
Where's the other hostage?
Oh, yeah, why, yes, there's 3. Oh, silly me. The answer's in the book, Batman. Open and see.
Tell me!
There's no joke, no joke. Control your rage. The answer is there. Just turn the page.
I think the portrayal of Jarvis in this game is phenomenal. And I also was a big fan of Man-Bat and Joker. Don't get me, oh my god, Joker was phenomenal, as always. Joker is the Joker. Joker is my favorite villain ever, and I couldn't be more blown away by his rendition in this game. And I wasn't even sure how they would up it after the last game, but the way they climaxed the Joker's story in this game was phenomenal, and it's exactly what you'd expect in a Batman story. And while all of that sounds amazing, and it is, this game isn't all good. It does have its issues. Some of these issues still stem from the launch of the game or are core gameplay design flaws in my opinion. Most notably is the over-reliance on the Batmobile. They rely on the Batmobile entirely way too much in this game, and I understand it's a new toy, you want to allow people to play with it, you want to kind of make them play with it and enjoy it and see what you added to the game, and it's cool and it's great and all of that, but eventually it does get old. Eventually using the Batmobile for certain tasks or being forced to do certain things with it just does get old. And that doesn't mean the Batmobile itself sucks. It just means that some of the things that you're required to do with it just become less and less enjoyable the more you have to do them. For instance, one of the things you have to do with the Batmobile is you have to disarm bombs and then fight a bunch of tanks. And the first few times you do this is amazing. It's fun. In fact, I would say the first 10 times I did this, I enjoyed it. But eventually it becomes annoying. It becomes tiring. And you're like, this is just stupid. It's the same thing every time. Upload the virus, blow up the bomb, fight the tanks over and over and over again. And my biggest issue with the Batmobile during the entire play of the game was this certain fight between Arkham Knight and you. And I find that this fight is one of the most incredibly frustrating fights of the game, especially if you're playing on the higher difficulties. And this wasn't an optional fight. This was something you had to do to progress the story. And if I'm being honest, I think the over-reliance on the Batmobile is one of the things that hurt this game the most upon release, because the performance in the Batmobile was absolutely terrible. You could not drive this thing anywhere without having problems. They have since ironed that out and fixed it. It is now enjoyable to play with and ride around Gotham in. However, the controls at times can still feel clunky, and sometimes the game can still lag or stutter, but not as much as it did upon release. So while the Batmobile can be fun, and I do find it to be one of the enjoyable parts of the game, I also do find that as the game progresses, it tends to be one of the more stale features of the game, because you've already been there, done that after the first few times. That doesn't mean it's not enjoyable, it just means it's not as enjoyable as it was the first time. But I still really do enjoy the Batmobile a lot. Now, I know I just said that the side content of this game is phenomenal, and while for the most part that is true, there was some of it that I didn't really like, and some of it I feel like was just filler. Like, for instance, why the hell do I have to find 240 Riddler trophies before I have my showdown with the Riddler? Something like this really bothered me. There was no way in hell I was going around collecting all of those trophies, and because I didn't feel like going around getting all of these Riddler trophies, I didn't get a chance to experience the true ending of the game, which is where the Dark Knight enacts the Dark Knight Protocol because of his identity being exposed.
Are you sure you want to do this, Master Bruce?
I've got to. It's the only way to protect them.
Very well.
We just saw Bruce Wayne, now known to be the masked vigilante Batman, enter his home, refusing to come.
And I'm sorry, but putting the Dark Knight ending behind such a boring task and such a tedious task really bothered me and didn't sit right with me. There was other side content too that just felt like bloat or just additional tasks they expected you to do, such as the checkpoints or the turret tower things that they'd put on top of roofs and whatnot. Like, none of these things felt like it was really worth doing in any aspect. All of the other side quests that were tied to a certain villain or whatnot, they all felt purposeful because you knew you were pursuing pursuing that villain. These tasks, they just felt like filler content that were just added in to keep you busy. Now, if you did want to test your skills and see whether or not you could take down these instances without being seen or without getting hit, these were good challenges for you, but they really added no good benefit. However, I think you did get a level up point from doing them, so you did get something. It wasn't like you got nothing from doing them, but to me, they just didn't feel as rewarding as the other content offered in the game on the side. The same thing goes for the Batman VR training modules. I didn't really do any of these. I think I did like 6 or 7 throughout my entire playthrough, and I didn't really feel like I was missing anything. They were just there if I wanted to attempt them, but I really didn't care to do them. Now, a huge issue with the game, in my opinion, is the pacing of the game. So in the beginning, you feel like you're building towards something. You feel like you're trying to achieve something. And then somewhere along the line, the game kind of like flattens out. You no longer feel like you're going after something. It feels like you're just trying to get through the night. And then towards the end, it kind of drops off completely, starting with the reveal of who the Arkham Knight is. And that brings me to my biggest issue with this game, the way that they revealed the Arkham Knight. Now, if you're at all familiar with the Batman, you saw this coming from a mile away. Everyone saw it. Even the game was kind of leading up to it with certain cutscenes you would have with the Joker and whatnot. But the reveal itself, even if you were expecting it, still felt underwhelming and still felt kind of silly. On top of that, the showdown you had with the Arkham Knight or Jason Todd, sorry if I spoiled it, just felt underwhelming. It felt lackluster. I don't think he hit me once during that entire fight. And I don't think his cronies and the little people you have to get through to get to the perch that he's on hit me either. This was probably one of the easiest fights that I had throughout the entire game, and it was kind of disappointed because it was building up to be probably one of the more difficult fights and also a bigger reveal, and neither one of those things happened. I think that was one of the biggest critiques that this game had upon release, and I still think that critique holds up. This could have been done better. I'm not saying it was poor, not saying it was bad, it just was underwhelming, and I feel like they really missed a moment that they could have climaxed on. So with all of that said, I do think that Batman Arkham Knight is probably the best Batman game that I've ever played, and a really good game in this genre. If you like these type of games, you're probably going to want to check this one out, but if you're a Batman fan, you're definitely going to want to play this game. And if you haven't played this game by now, I would suggest picking it up. It only costs $20 on PC and on PS5. Now, I don't know how much it costs on the Xbox, as I don't own an Xbox, but I would just say pick it up on PC if you have a PC capable of handling it. If not, grab it on sale on PlayStation. $20 is definitely a good price for it. I definitely think it's worth that at least, but if you could find it half off, I would still try to do that as well. Anyway guys, thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Hippo out.